Welcome into the GSMC Sports Podcast for our final segment of the day, where we are going to be just talking about the Red Sox, who wrapped up their first half of the regular season and did so vastly exceeding expectations, where at this point they are now in that third wild card spot headed into the All-Star break with a record of 53-42, so 11 games over. Let me double check that. Are they 11 games over or 10 games over? 53-42, 11 games over 500 for the first time all season, and quite the surprise if you ask just about any Red Sox fan coming into the year. And they were able to do so by winning 2 out of 3 games against the Kansas City Royals over the weekend. They end up dropping game 1 in this series, which really, as soon as it started and you got off to that ugly start in terms of the, it was right around the 4th inning probably. I mean, the Sox did actually have the lead early on in this game where they were up 4-1 after the 2nd inning, but ultimately it just didn't really feel like that was ever really going to be the game. It was Cooper Criswell making his first start in the majors in just about a month versus Cole Ragans, who is a very solid left-handed pitcher, and we just talked about on Friday how the Sox have tended to struggle against left-handed pitching this season. Criswell actually played pretty well, all things considered. 6 innings pitched, 8 hits, 2 walks, and 2 earned runs. Overall solid. Now, there were a total of 5 runs that were scored during his outing, thanks to some bad defense and the fact that he was allowing traffic. And that is just kind of a common theme with this Red Sox team, is that they have pitchers that sort of play to contact, and they haven't been the sharpest defensive team, especially now at this point. You feel a lot better about their outfield defensively, but the middle of that infield especially is not the cleanest. So, that's something that Criswell kind of out of his control, but also, again, he did allow a lot of traffic where it was, it was a good amount of traffic. It was 10 base runners in 6 innings pitched, which ultimately isn't terrible, but it's not the cleanest thing ever. But went 104 pitches, which was very surprising, very much needed for the bullpen to have a little bit less pressure on them. Ragans, on the other hand, was able to pretty easily, handle the, I was going to say, I said 4-1 earlier, but I was looking at the wrong game on my phone at that point. The Sox only scored 1 run in this game, so yeah. Ragans did very well for himself in this one. 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, and just 1 earned run. But the Sox are now 12-15 against starting left-handed pitchers this season. Another sign that they could definitely use a right-handed bat at the trade deadline this year. And also, another thing that sort of ties into the fact that this game just never felt like it was theirs was the fact that they have just been so bad on Fridays for some reason this year. A very weird trend there with them, but they are 4-12 on Fridays this year according to StatMuse, and they end up losing this game at 6-1. But games 2 and 3 were very encouraging notes to go off on headed into the All-Star break, where Cutter Crawford has just been incredibly efficient over the course of the past couple starts for him. And it's something that, we felt like Cutter Crawford, at least I felt like Cutter Crawford going into this season had, a level that he was going to potentially be able to tap into. And he started the season really strong, but as we know, Crawford already, exceedingly over his career high in innings pitched. And that's something that the Red Sox understand and are trying to manage as well as they can, of giving him the extra off days. And that's where, when you look in some of these starts where I think he's now running on 16 scoreless innings, and there are a couple starts like in the Yankees game where you feel like he has a lot more in him, but at that point you just don't want to physically tax him. We understand at this point, you already know Tanner Houck is running on a career high in innings pitched, and you're just trying to sort of make it through the season with the arms you have. Now, that being said, I've talked about before, I feel like the Red Sox could very easily, benefit from going out and getting an extra starting pitching arm in the upcoming trade deadline. You look at who they have right now, and the top three is overall pretty solid. It's Tanner Houck, who is in the conversation at least for AL Cy Young this year. Cutter Crawford as well, having at least this recent resurgence. Overall feels like a good arm, but not one that you feel extremely confident about. When by the time the playoffs come around, is his arm still going to be on him at that point? Is he still going to have the same stuff that he has recently been dealing? And then, Bayo or Pivetta as a third starter, which neither one of those options are bad, but neither of them are great necessarily either, and the Red Sox could just benefit from having some insurance as well. So, just wanted to quickly note on that. Anything else here? I mean, Dom Smith actually had a very good series, and it's funny the way that he has become a surprise contributor for this Red Sox team and a fan favorite, really. The first baseman that not the step first baseman, but the baseman that stepped up. That's a whole thing that went on with Red Sox fans and a situation with a sign at Fenway over the weekend, but last notes here would be Bayo's start. I mean, it kind of felt like ultimately this is what you can expect from Bayo. Now, the overall execution, I think that there should be a level higher, but, he allowed a lot of traffic, but only allowed 3 runs. He had just had a career-high 11 strikeouts in the start prior. That's not something that he needs to consistently have in his arsenal. The expectations are a lot lower than that, especially right now, considering, where they were headed into the season because of the fact that he hasn't necessarily evolved to the guy that Red Sox fans were hoping for. But just be a reliable starter for them, be able to get your 6 innings and get out with minimal damage. Now, this is 3 straight outings where he has allowed a run in the first inning. A little bit concerning there, just doesn't make you feel great necessarily. It's almost like he's not ready. But, at the same time, expectations have just shifted on Brayan Bello, so that's kind of where we are at with that. Kenley ended up closing that game out with a 2-inning save. Still feels like, at this point, Kenley is just such an interesting kind of character and piece into this Red Sox puzzle over the past 2 years, where they haven't been all that competitive. And they were at least in ball games for a lot of last season, and right now they are 11 games over 500, so you can't say they're not competitive, but not seen as any type of a real World Series contender necessarily. And Kenley, outside of one really bad stretch during the 2023 season where it was, when he was going up against the Braves and he had just hit 400 career saves, that, it was a little bit of a rough patch there. And you still never feel like you get a clean Kenley Jansen inning, that there is usually some traffic that, crowds the base paths a little bit, and Kenley makes you sweat. This game was 2-inning save. We did see him actually strike out the side in the 8th inning, which, again, kind of unheard of with Kenley, it feels like. Ran into a little bit more trouble in the 9th inning, but got out of it. Don Rafaela, who continues to impress, made a really crucial save there to help him get out of that trouble. But Kenley's blown just 1 save all season, and again, I'm not saying it always looks the cleanest, but when you're comparing him to Clay Holmes, who is currently, the all-star closer for the American League, you got to feel pretty good about what Kenley has been able to give you if you're the Red Sox. And as you're going through his story of him in Boston, even during this offseason, he was, seeming like he was disinterested in sticking with the Red Sox long term, that he wanted to be with a team that was more invested in winning. He and Rafael Devers both have sort of spoken up about the front office, of them trying to go and make a move, and feels like there might be a little bit more momentum of them actually buying a little bit, which is something that I was not expecting. I still don't want to get my hopes up necessarily that they are going to make some moves at the deadline, but it's at least a conversation now. And Kenley, just overall to round out this thing, it's been pretty bumpy, and it hasn't exactly been the perfect fit for him in Boston, but he has gotten the job done time and time again. And the Red Sox are, if they're going to try and be competitive this year, having him is an important part of that equation. But again, Red Sox finish off the first half of the season with a 53-42 record in that third wild card spot. 1 game back of the Yankees, 4.5 games back of the Orioles. Any Red Sox fan would take that coming into the year. So we'll see how much they are able to, maintain that level of success, or if they're going to fizzle out like a lot of these other Red Sox teams that we've seen in the past couple years. But that is all the time we have for today. Thank you very much to the GSMC Sports Network for allowing us to host this show. Remember to like, follow, subscribe. Check us out on social media as well for more exclusive short content. And we will be back tomorrow afternoon, same time as always, at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern. We will see you then. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go.